Welcome to Recovered Relics, where lost media finds its way home. Join us as we uncover the stories behind lost films, rare recordings, and forgotten treasures. While the thrill of discovery drives us, it's the journey through history, mystery, and the unexpected twists that captivate. Because in the search for lost media, every clue, every lead, and every dead end holds a story waiting to be told. Get ready to delve into the fascinating world where the end is only the beginning. Welcome back, Chimera crew, to another episode of Recovered Relics, where we take a look at found lost media and examine its effect not only on the lost media community, but its effects on its own genre of media. Today we're going to take a look at a piece of media that was lost back in the 90s and did not resurface until 2022. I'm talking about the live-action animated hybrid American Sailor Moon series, often referred to as Saban Moon. If you enjoy this kind of content, be sure to like and subscribe, as well as leave a comment of what I should cover next. With that being said, let's begin. In the early 1990s, anime was beginning to find an international audience, especially in the West. Among the many series that gained immense popularity, Sailor Moon, created by Naoko Takeuchi, stood out as a cultural phenomenon. With its blend of magical girl elements, action, and themes of friendship and empowerment, the series had significant appeal across demographic lines. As it grew in popularity in Japan, there was a natural interest in adapting it for the Western market. Toei Animation, the Japanese company behind Sailor Moon, partnered with American company Toon Makers in an attempt to create a version of the show tailored specifically for American audiences. Rather than simply translating and dubbing the Japanese anime, Toon Makers decided to produce a hybrid, live-action animated show. This approach was influenced by successful franchises like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which had combined Japanese footage with American storylines and actors to great commercial success. Now, the American Sailor Moon pilot departed significantly from its Japanese counterpart, most notably its hybrid format. Unlike the fully animated original, the American version featured live-action sequences for the girls' everyday lives and animated segments for their superhero transformations. This hybrid approach was considered a way to blend Western sensibilities with animated action sequences. There was also cultural localization. The 5 Sailor Guardians were not Japanese, but a diverse group of American girls. The producers aimed to represent various ethnicities to appeal to a broader US audience. The main character, Usagi Tsukino, Sailor Moon, was renamed Victoria, and her teammates' names and backgrounds were similarly altered. And of course, with the localization to a Western audience, there was Western superhero influence. Rather than sticking closely to the magical girl tropes of the original, the American pilot leaned into Western superhero conventions. This involved altering not just the storylines, but also the dynamics between the characters, making them more like a team of Western-style action heroes. Two of the most notable additions of this kind were the rebranding. Instead of Sailor Scouts, they were now known as Princess Fighters, and they traveled on Sky Flyers, a space-age vehicle added to appeal to the American audience. Toon Makers created a 17-minute pilot, as well as were in production of 3 additional episodes before these 3 episodes ultimately were never completed due to them being able to secure funding, as well as no one showing interest in picking up the show. Now, all of that, the pilot, the show not being picked up for distribution, all of that occurred in 1993, and around the same time, DiC Entertainment secured the rights to dub and distribute the original Japanese Sailor Moon anime in the United States, opting for a more straightforward localization approach, editing, censoring, and translating for an American audience. This is the Sailor Moon most people were introduced to in the 90s. The DiC dub was extremely popular and basically caused the Toon Makers project to fall into obscurity. The only trace of the project that remained in circulation was a 2-minute promotional music video which combined live action and animated elements and featured an original theme song. This video was shown at conventions such as Anime Expo 1998 and eventually became available online. However, the full 17-minute pilot remained elusive, and for years, fans speculated about its existence and quality. One of the biggest hurdles in obtaining the pilot or having it released publicly was due to ownership and copyright limbo. Now, Toon Makers had been granted temporary adaptation rights to Sailor Moon by Toei Animation and Bandai, but the rights reverted back to these companies after the project was shelved. Over the years, Toon Maker's president, Rocky Solidoff, gave several interviews confirming that the pilot did still exist and was part of the company's demo reel, but could not be publicly shown due to copyright issues. He suggested that the footage was likely in the hands of either Toei, Bandai, or former Toon Maker's employees, placing the pilot in a kind of copyright limbo. This uncertainty fueled rumors that the footage had either been lost or destroyed. Now, some headway was made in 2012 when production materials, including animation cells, concept art, and scripts related to the American Sailor Moon project, surfaced on auction sites after the contents of a Toon Maker's storage locker were sold following the arrest of Raymond Lekovaci, a former employee. Despite this tantalizing discovery, the pilot itself still remained lost. The American Sailor Moon pilot's status as one of the most sought-after pieces of lost media persisted for decades until YouTuber Raymona embarked on a quest to track it down. In 2022, Raymona released a two-part documentary series titled The Western World of Sailor Moon on her YouTube channel, chronicling her search for the lost pilot. With the help of Kotaku journalist Cecilia D'Anastasio, Raymona was able to locate a copy of the pilot in the Library of Congress. After successfully petitioning for access, she was granted permission to release the pilot on YouTube and archive.org, where it was made publicly available without watermarks. This marked the first time in nearly 3 decades that fans could watch the entire 17-minute pilot, along with behind-the-scenes footage of its production. The rediscovery was a major event for both Sailor Moon fans and the lost media community. It provided a long-awaited look at a pivotal moment in the history of anime localization and offered insight into how differently Sailor Moon could have been adapted for Western audiences. Upon its rediscovery, fans were struck by how drastically different the Toon Maker's pilot was from the Japanese Sailor Moon anime. The live-action segments were reminiscent of Power Rangers, with over-the-top costuming and a campy tone. The animated portions, while ambitious in their own right, lacked the elegance and detailed artistry of the original Sailor Moon anime. The animation style was more in line with Western cartoons of the time, with a rougher, more action-oriented look. Now, that's not to say this American version didn't have any strengths. One of the most notable aspects was the diversity and representation. It was, the attempt to represent a diverse cast of characters. Each Sailor Guardian was from a different ethnic background, which was a progressive move in the 1990s. Also, even featuring one of the Sailor Scouts both in her live-action and cartoon form, as in a wheelchair in our world, and in the animated world, she had a flying kind of personal spacecraft. And this was all well before modern conversations about diversity in media became mainstream, so it was very ahead of its time in that aspect. It also must be noted how ambitious this project was. It was not just some cheap recreation. I mean, there was definitely some thought and effort put behind this. The hybrid approach combining live action with animation was bold, and while it ultimately didn't succeed, it showed the producer's willingness to take creative risks and adapt anime to a different cultural context. That being said, the weaknesses were pretty glaring. There was definitely an inconsistent tone, the juxtaposition of live action and animation did not work seamlessly, and the shifts between the two felt jarring, and the live action segments seemed overly campy compared to the more serious animated portions. The other notable weakness was the loss of Sailor Moon's core elements. The core appeal of Sailor Moon is its magical girl themes, emotional depth, and iconic art style, and this was definitely lost in translation. The pilot was far more action-driven, and it definitely lacked the emotional resonance of the original. Who's to say if this had gotten picked up, they might have changed that, as the pilot was definitely just made to garner interest in the project, but ultimately it just kind of fell flat emotionally. This pilot is so much more than just a failed 90s cartoon. The Toon Maker's Sailor Moon pilot represents a key moment in the history of anime localization. Had it been successful, it might have reshaped how anime was adapted for Western audiences. Its failure, however, led to the more faithful DiC dub, which allowed Sailor Moon to retain much of its Japanese identity while still appealing to Western viewers. The pilot's legacy, then, is one of missed opportunity and creative miscalculation, and ultimately that is good, though, because the success of the DiC dub of Sailor Moon showed people in America, particularly studios, that American audiences would accept anime without changing it too much. You didn't have to make it, X-Men or Batman the Animated Series. You could keep it as it was, and the audiences would still accept it with a bit of localization and, of course, a dub, because we all hate subtitles. Still, it is interesting to see what it could have been, but I do ultimately think we are better for having, this one having failed. It is still important because there are two ways anything could go. And in the lost media community itself, the rediscovery of the pilot in 2022 was a significant event in the lost media community, marking the resolution of one of the longest-running searches for lost content. Ray Mona's efforts, alongside the enthusiasm of online fan communities, show the power of collaborative research and the persistence of fans in unearthing forgotten pieces of media history. The pilot also highlights the complexities of media ownership, as it languished in copyright limbo for decades, inaccessible to the public due to uncertainty over who held the rights to release it. Its discovery underscores the importance of archival preservation and the need for clearer guidelines on media ownership, particularly for projects that were never released commercially. The story of the Toon Maker's Sailor Moon pilot offers a fascinating lens into the cultural dynamics of the 1990s and the challenges of adapting anime for Western audiences at the time. Its rediscovery in 2022 by Ray Mona provided fans with a long-awaited glimpse into an alternate version of Sailor Moon, one that was ultimately rejected in favor of a more faithful adaptation. The pilot stands as a cultural artifact of its time, a relic of the early attempts to bridge the gap between Japanese and American entertainment. In both its field of media and within the lost media community, the Toon Maker's Sailor Moon pilot serves as a symbol of how elusive lost media can be, and the enduring passion of fans to preserve and uncover forgotten pieces of media history. And that's our video, everybody. I do so hope you enjoyed it. Again, please be sure to like and subscribe if you've not done so already. And in the comments, please give me ideas for pieces of found media that I should explore next. On a personal note, I will say Sailor Moon was my introduction into Japanese anime. I did not really enjoy the series at the time. I still can't even say it's one of my preferred series, but it definitely was a stark contrast to the other cartoons that I watched in the 90s at the time, and I definitely think that that difference, that making it something completely new and unique rather than the cartoons that were very, cookie cutter and they all kind of look the same to American audiences. I think that really is what allowed not only Sailor Moon, but also anime as a whole to find its footing and its place in American society. And so while definitely would have been interesting to see how this one turned out had it been made into a full series, I think ultimately it would have had a much more negative impact on anime localization in the West. So, thank God it became lost media rather than, the Sailor Moon that we all know today. That being said, I'm glad it was found, and I'm glad that people can enjoy it, so to speak, now. Please be sure to check my links. Possibly if you'd like to help the channel monetarily, you can go to eBay or Mercari and purchase a miniature. I have all kinds of miniatures, everything from simple HeroClix repaints, custom D&D minis, even spicy minis if you're into that. We've recently started adding characters from fighting games. So up there right now at the time of recording, I have a couple Mortal Kombat characters, and there are Soul Calibur characters currently in production. Also, if you just want to help monetarily, but you don't want a mini, you can join the Patreon or become an eBay channel member. I do give, there's a scrolling list of the supporters at the end of every episode, and depending on your tier, you might even get a verbal shout out once a week. And before I forget to do that this week, I'm just going to give a shout out to those people right now. Thank you so much, J-Dog, can't even speak right now. J-Dog has been my biggest and longest supporter. He is on the beta He's part of the Beta Club over on Patreon, and then Patty Slaps has recently joined the Beta Tomorrow Society here on YouTube. So thank you both so much for your contributions to the show. Thank you so much, and guys, until next time, I'm Mr. Sean, this is Chimera Miniatures, and I sincerely hope that you alpha great day and an even beta tomorrow. Bye-bye.